Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tryst. It honestly is an honor and a privilege to have you all here tonight. Davey, could I ask you to come sit with me, Davey? Where are you? Ladies and gentlemen, please give Davey Tsopo a warm round of applause. Davey doesn't actually fully realize that he's sitting here. Surprise. Thank you for being here. So welcome to the Tryst, guys. I want to just share 2 minutes of why we called it the Tryst, because first a lot of people call it the Tryst. Please don't do that. I've always been a storyteller at heart, and I've always thought that when it comes to names, I want them to mean something. And I'm going to show you a video in a short space of time that explains why we called it the Tryst and what we kind of had to do to get here. But when I was looking for a name, I found the word tryst, which actually has a slight sexual connotation to it. But we decided to angle it differently. The definition that I found said, a secret rendezvous between lovers. And why that hit a spot for me is that when COVID took away events, and you love events, but you can't do the thing you love, and you finally get a gap to do it again, I made a promise that we would never just run events here, that we would, whatever we did here, we would do it with love, with passion, and with romance. And it was like an oath to anybody who would attend that we would do it in that community, romantic setting. And that's where the name came from, the Tryst. So we've been here for about a year, and we are storytellers at heart, but instead of me telling you, I want to show you. So if you can peer toward the screens, this will explain it all to you. So the Small Business Showcase was started about 2 years ago when COVID first hit. I was in the eventing industry, and also I speak for a living, and I couldn't do either of these when COVID first hit. So my first response was to set up a small video studio and try create content that way. And once I got settled, I came up with the idea to start inviting small businesses into my studio where I would interview the owners at no cost to them, and then I would use my well-developed social media channels to kind of shine a spotlight on these small business owners who had also got the absolute crap kicked out of them, but through no fault of their own. And when I first set it up, it was simply because I had a bit of spare capacity in the studio and I was just trying to help. I had no clue that this thing would blow up the way it did. But after a few episodes, I got approached by Sasfin Bank, and they asked me, how do we get involved with this? And 2 years later, we have now recorded 60 episodes of the Small Business Showcase where we find cool and interesting small businesses. We create a little bit of content about them, and then we showcase that to the world. And like I said, the response has been phenomenal. But as we move away from the impacts of COVID, I've been thinking for the longest time, like, how do we take this up a few notches? And so my team and I came up with this idea that we would set up a small business directory website. And the reason is, oftentimes when we are looking for small businesses to showcase, they're also scattered all over the internet. My thinking was, what happens if we could find or create one central place where all these quality small businesses live? We could create a listing for each of them, we would create a video for them, and so forth. And that is how the Small Business Showcase website was born. But I think beyond that, the goal that I have with the Small Business Showcase concept is to continuously champion and promote the idea that small businesses are the absolute engine room of any economy around the world, and that I believe it's our civic duty to do everything we can to support small businesses. I think when you compare big businesses versus small businesses, the thing that small businesses do so well is that they are super efficient with the deployment of capital and their resources. So small businesses don't sit with huge amounts of cash in their bank account. Instead, they use their revenue and their turnover to pay staff a livable wage, to pay their rent, and to support other businesses, big and small. And that's why I think we have such an important job of supporting small businesses. And really what we're trying to do is play our part in promoting small businesses, promoting the concept of why small businesses are important, creating a centralized marketplace where people can find quality small businesses in one place, and also helping small businesses with their marketing. I think when you are a small business, you are the CEO, the tea lady, the marketing person. You play all these roles, and so sometimes it's just so hard because you do need to get yourself out there more, but you either don't have the resources or the know-how or both. And that's where the Small Business Showcase is so important to these other small businesses. So we've really set up this website not just as a small business directory, but a place where we can continuously tell amazing stories about small businesses in the hope that those pieces of content go viral and most of these small businesses get huge amounts of exposure in the process. So I guess more than anything, as a small business owner myself, I'm incredibly bullish on small businesses, and I want to do anything I can to help small businesses thrive in a very tough climate and economy. And that more than anything is what the Small Business Showcase is all about. Where it goes to from here, I have no clue, but I just want more people to know about quality small businesses, and I want to play my part in convincing the public to support these small businesses. So that's not entirely why we're here, but I wanted to share the why. I believe that people don't just buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I want to take you a little bit through the journey if I can, because in the video, it showed you when March 2020 hit alongside COVID, that was the first ever webinar we ran. All of you had to look at my nose from my computer laptop screen and the camera. It was terrible. We had no clue what we were going to do. Just 3 weeks before this, I was drinking like all other South Africans for 3 weeks. But very quickly, we realized we had to do something. Like, we couldn't just do this anymore. We couldn't just sit around. We ran this first webinar. It was absolutely terrible. I couldn't even watch my own content back. So with a little bit of money, we set up 2 broadcast cameras in someone's house. We had absolutely no clue what we were doing. This is not an industry I come from. We were just winging it and figuring it out. But soon enough, a few clients called us and said, I saw that webinar that you did with the 2 screens. Could you do it for us? And pretty quickly, we struck a deal with WeWork. We added a camera, and we coasted along for about 6-7 months just righting the ship. And then in December 2020, I started thinking, well, this studio is great at WeWork, but we can't customize the space. So let's maybe go find our own space that's 2 or 3 times the size of that we could put maybe 2 or 3 studios in. I mean, it is COVID times. There must be a plethora of offices available. And one night, I was looking on Property 24, and I found this place. But it didn't look like this. In fact, this video that I'm about to show you is the day I came and looked at it with the rental agent. Better. Than this. Do you know what I mean? I just don't know if it's going to... And then parking-wise, what is the situation? I was going to mute the sound, and when I heard that, I thought, you might as well share in the journey. And so, this, we were looking for 200 squares, and suddenly we found ourselves in 1,500. And it's a weird thing, because we're a tiny business, just in a really big space. And so the work got going. And whenever we made a little bit of money, we put it into the space. And as we built a little bit of momentum, the July lockdown happened. We got in here in May, and the end of June, sorry, you can't operate. And we were kind of COVID friendly at this point, but we just weren't expecting everybody else to just press pause. And so it was hard to keep our spirits, if I'm honest, during that time. But we kind of did it. I mean, just to give you some perspective, this event in this picture, this happened a week ago. You guys were basically the driving force to get this venue in shape. But I want to take you back to the WeWork days, and that's why I asked Davey, because in about October 2020, I got a phone call from a friend of mine. She had seen us do 1 or 2 of these small business showcase videos, and she said to me, I've got this friend named Davey. Please, would you just do me a favor and interview him? He's got quite a story. And I was like, sure, We'll do it. On the morning that he was meant to arrive, I just had the worst night of sleep. And I don't function very well on such little sleep. And I almost cancelled on Davey. And the only reason I didn't, I don't know if I ever told you, was because you told me that you were catching public transport. And I figured that by the time I was going to cancel him, like, it would be just too cruel to do that. And I should probably wear my balls in the front and just do what I need to do. So Davey came in, and I knew very little of his story. As I do with a lot of interviews, I just wing it. And I want to show you 90 seconds, because what you're about to see is the God's honest truth. I had no clue what I was walking into. I don't know if you remember this, but here we go. You lost your job.
Yes.
And you started, and then you couldn't, in lockdown, you literally couldn't leave. So you literally had to wait those 6 weeks.
Yes.
Until 5 weeks, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Until you could get the stove connected.
Yes.
And now you're baking cakes for everybody. Yes. Your logo is beautiful. This is unbelievable. This is amazing. How do you feel?
You know, sometimes I ask myself, am I dreaming? Because, you know, from being a cleaner to owning Cakey by Dave. You know, my boss, he even text me, Davey, I'm proud of you, Greg.
Wow.
I'm really proud of you. You know, of course, things happen. You know, it was not his...
Yes, it wasn't his fault either.
It was, you know, he couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I understand the restaurant industry. You know, Brian Lara was amazing before lockdown, then everything changed. I don't blame him because he had no choice. But here I am. Like, it's like a miracle. I'm very happy. Sometimes, you know, like on Father's Day, I cried.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, is this me? You know, I was stuck, no income, and now I'm earning something. You know, this world, I always tell people, this world is full of good people.
Yes.
You know, I'm sorry, sometimes.
I'm dying.
You know,
it's really hard to watch. I mean, it's amazing to watch. Davies was a waiter at Davey was a waiter at Brian Laura Rum Eatery. And he lost his job because of COVID and the lockdown. And him and his wife had just had a 1-month-old baby. And as you can imagine, he was shitting himself. And so he turned to YouTube to teach himself how to bake cakes. And he started baking cakes, and one by one, people started supporting him. And so last night when I was putting this part together, you know, you deliberate if I can speak to human, because like, I'm not actually trying to create the drama and the effect. But the last 2.5 years were shit. They were not fun for small businesses. And so we started this thing. Thank you. We started this thing out of pure serendipity. You know, the lesson in the last 2.5 years is just put one foot in front of the other, even when you don't know how it works. If I'd cancelled on Davey that day, I don't know what would have happened. But I digress, because I promised my team I'd keep this intro brief. That video went viral. And that led to a phone call from Sasfin. And Sasfin said to me, we really love what you're doing with the Small Business Showcase. Can we be part of it? And if I'm honest, like at first, I was super intrigued, but I was a touch apprehensive, because you create this little child and you don't want it to be corporatized, right? You want the essence of it to stick. And that's exactly what they gave me. I didn't tell Ellie I'm doing this. I just blocked that one part, but this was the email between Ellie and I. I just blocked out the part where you can mind your own damn business, okay? But one of the key things that Ellie says in there is, let's go for 6 months, but we want to do this on a longer term patch. And we met several times, and I kept saying, I really would love for you guys to be part of this, but please, I'm just asking you, please make sure that we do this properly. And they have. 2 more things I want to show you. So now we sign an agreement, we start producing Small Business Showcase episodes, and then we move into the Tryst. We had no clue we were going to move in here. And suddenly we couldn't produce episodes for almost 7 weeks. This will explain it. So today I want to share some really cool news with each and every one of you, and I also want to just give a big love to Sasfin. But let's start with the big news. So I can finally confirm that the Small Business Showcase will officially be resuming as of yesterday. One of the major reasons we took an unintended break was because as Suits and Sneakers, we made the decision to embark on this massive expansion and get into this new building. And we had absolutely no clue what we were in for. The big love I want to give to Sasfin is just because I've been in a number of partnerships before, but I've never quite experienced the level of patience, support, and understanding that we have. And I'm not forced to say this. You know, I think from their end, they surely would have been frustrated with the fact that we weren't able to churn out these episodes sooner. But being a small business ourselves, the last few months have been so brutal. We've had to obviously get into this building. Whenever you make a bold move like this expansion of ours, you tend to underestimate what it's going to take to get going. I thought I'd overestimated the kind of work, and even then I was still short. Nonetheless, we kept thinking we would have a studio, but it took way longer than I thought it would take. In between this, we simply didn't have the means to produce Small Business Showcase episodes. And this is where I think Sasfin was so incredible, is that instead of getting frustrated with me, they would constantly reach out to understand where we're at, what could they do to help. They would encourage me and support us as a business. And you know, like I said, I've been in a number of these types of partnerships. And what you have happen quite often is that the big business and small business coming together, there's different value systems at play. And when the small business encounters typical small business issues that maybe a bigger business doesn't appreciate or doesn't understand, you find there's this collapse, but we've experienced the exact opposite. Lastly, the Small Business Showcase matters. We are in this most intense COVID time where the impacts on small businesses are so severe, and small businesses really recycle money so quickly, and they are the backbone of this economy, which is why we found it to be so important to shine a spotlight on incredible small businesses who are doing amazing things. And this is where I need your help. We're going to be resuming the Small Business Showcase, and I cannot wait. We've already started with some recordings over the last week or so, and they'll be churned out from about next week onward. But we really need your support to help these small businesses during this crazy time. Big love to Sasfin one more time. I didn't have to make this video, but I just wanted to tell you how epic they are. The Small Business Showcase is back. Small businesses matter. We'll see you next week. So here's the thing. There's two sides to tonight. I wanted to show you this because I think that this matters. It's part of the Ignite process. And so Davey, I wanted to say thank you. I don't know how the world aligned us in that time. Davey did us a favor, and he actually made 2 cakes. If you look to your right on that table, there's 2 cakes there. And so this part right here is, stand up there, Davey. That is Davey Tsopo from Cakey by Davey. And when this event is done, you go get yourself a slice of cake from Cakey by Davey, and you order yourselves a damn cake. That's an order. Thank you, Davey. Quick fire other ones, just 3 or 4 small businesses. Shara, give us a stand up there. Come quickly, Shara and Glorina. That's these ladies. So let me explain. Shara, blonde Shara, she's got a company called Fabric Bank, textiles and wallpaper, but don't think about it in the traditional sense. She's pushing the boundaries on the technology side. She's the one who made this wall look pretty. We got to support her. This is her work. Please go talk to Shara afterwards. She's accompanied by Glorina from Renaissance. Glorina is starting to design all these and many others, not this specific one, but other wallpapers around the venue. She does this for many companies. They've partnered on Momentum's new offices. They're doing incredible things. We featured them in the Small Business Showcase. Glorina, the designer from Renaissance, and Shara from Fab Big Bang. Go talk to these ladies. Eben, where's Eben? There's Eben. Just have a quick look at Eben over there. The beer that you're drinking in the bar, that's Eben. Extra fresh, mad giant. We only stock the local brands in here. We just refuse to have the bigger brands. There's one or two others. Tristan, he's a handsome looking fella. He's that guy there at Optimize. He's standing up there, ironically, with a beer in his hand. He does all sorts of nootropics and supplements. I mean, he's allowed to live his life. Let's call a spade a spade. He's going to be standing there after the show. Go talk to him, please. And lastly, Rashid from Landlord Footwear. Where's he? There he is. Local sneaker brand. Please, go find him. So Ignite. We've been working with Sasfin, Small Business Showcase, and I've been saying to Sasfin, let's run an event because we're due to come back, people. It's time. I totally appreciate if people are still apprehensive, there's no problem. Ironically, we've got our cameras out here. We'll be recording it. For people who didn't or couldn't come, we'll record it and we'll let them watch it. They've got the option. But for those that have hit their tether, it's time. It's time to connect again. It's time to get out of this emotional lockdown. It's time for us to talk to each other. And that's what I would love you to do. And we picked the name Ignite because we were like, let's get two cool speakers and let's just, if for nothing else, connect again and figure out how collectively, as a community, do we ignite business growth, not just small, not just medium and large. How do we in this room ignite business growth? Because the one thing that's clear for me is that I love South Africa, and I think you do too. And there's something beautiful about this place, but we have our shit. And we shouldn't ignore that. But I'm so tired of thinking about the COVID numbers or the potential lockdown or that, because it's actually out of my scope of control. And so the only thing that is in my scope of control is literally being able to impact the people that were willing to be here. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here.